Welcome to the Sleep Dives channel. Today, we're diving into pages 386 to 419 of our source, and we're tackling a couple of really massive challenges. You know, the kind that can make or break any team. How do you build a vision that everyone actually gets behind? And, maybe even more important, how you take all that raw, messy energy of conflict and actually turn it into something creative. Well, let's find out. So let's start right here with a scene of just total animosity. And look, this quote isn't just some dramatic language. It's describing the actual feeling in a room at a steel company that was stuck in decades of conflict. It's the kind of rock-bottom place that just seems impossible to come back from. So first, we're going to unpack how things get this bad, and then we'll look at the incredible tools they use to turn that hate into something truly amazing. So where does this kind of mess usually begin? Well, as we're about to see, a super common but critical failure point is the leader themselves. It's about how even the ones with the best intentions can accidentally slam the brakes on progress and just shatter trust. Okay, this is such a brilliant way to think about it. Normally, in a hierarchy, all the power flows down, right? But when you genuinely ask people to create something together, you reverse that current. All of a sudden, you've got this massive surge of ideas, of feedback, of pure energy flowing up from the team. And if the leader isn't ready to handle that kind of voltage, well, they can, as it says here, blow a fuse. And what happens when that fuse blows? Well, this slide lays out the fallout perfectly. It's not just some small hiccup, it's a fundamental breach of trust. That unspoken promise of openness, it's broken. The team learns a really dangerous lesson. Your ideas are welcome, but only until they make things uncomfortable. And according to our source, the only way to even begin to fix that is for the leader to be brutally honest about what really forced them to pull the plug. So, how do you stop this from happening in the first place? Well, the solution doesn't start with trying to fix the leader. It starts by making the whole system stronger. And step one is building a vision that is genuinely shared by everyone. All right, let's look at a really practical tool for this. This isn't about writing some fluffy mission statement nobody reads. It's a really simple two-step process. First, the team gets together and paints this super vivid, detailed picture of their ideal future. Then, you come crashing right back down to earth with an honest look at where you are today. And the magic happens in that gap between those 2 points. It creates this powerful creative tension that makes the whole journey feel both urgent and totally possible. You know, a vision without a plan is just a nice daydream. So to make it real, the team has to define these strategic priorities. Just think of them as the big, concrete chunks of work that have real, measurable results. They're like the stepping stones that get you from your current reality to that future you just imagined. And here's a perfect example of what that looks like. See how it's not vague at all? 80% of our managers will be trained in facilitating dialogue by mid-1995. It's specific, it's measurable, it has a deadline, it's a concrete action that you can see directly builds towards that bigger vision of a more collaborative company. But, you know, even if you have a great shared vision and these super clear priorities, there's still a piece of the puzzle missing. The team needs a discipline for learning together. And as our source makes really clear, that discipline, it lives or dies by the quality of the team's conversations. Okay, this part is so important. The word discussion, it actually shares a root with words like percussion and concussion. It literally means to smash things to pieces. It's a battle, an advocacy war where the whole point is to win. But dialogue, well, that comes from roots that mean meaning flowing through. It's a collective exploration where the goal isn't for one person to win, but for everyone to see a bigger, more complete picture together. And that's the ultimate goal of dialogue. Team learning isn't about doing trust falls or going on company picnics. No, it's about reaching this state of true alignment, where a team just functions as one single whole unit. The source uses the legendary Boston Celtics basketball dynasty as an example, a team where the players just seemed to know what the others were thinking, acting with this unified, almost telepathic kind of intelligence. I just love this analogy. A skillful discussion, that's like chamber music. It's structured, everyone plays their part, it's really valuable for making a clear decision. But dialogue, that's more like jazz. It allows for improvisation, for new ideas to just emerge out of nowhere. It creates a collective feeling in the moment that no single person could have possibly come up with on their own. Okay, so let's see what happens when you put these ideas, shared vision and real dialogue, into practice. Let's look at how they transformed a real company that was, and I'm not exaggerating here, absolutely crippled by decades of hostility. I mean, this timeline is just staggering, isn't it? Just look at the shift at this steel manufacturer, GS Technologies. In just a couple of years, they went from a state of what was basically open warfare, we're talking hundreds of grievances, pure hatred, to a genuine partnership. A partnership so functional that management and the union started giving presentations together to the outside world as one single team. So how on earth did they pull that off? Well, the key, it turns out, was trust. Instead of management creating some program and forcing it on the union, they did something pretty radical. They invited the union to help design it with them right from the very beginning. And the result? The union president himself says they saved $5 million just by finally talking to each other and using the collective brain power that was sitting there the whole time. And this brings us to the core concept they came up with. They called their dialogue space the Cauldron. And for a steel mill, it was the perfect metaphor. A place that could safely contain all the intense heat of their history, all their anger, all their mistrust, and use that very same energy to forge something new, something stronger, a shared purpose. Right, this all sounds amazing in a big company, but how can you actually use these powerful ideas in your own life, in your own work? How do you start building your own, maybe smaller, cauldron? Well, the good news is you don't need some huge corporate initiative to get started. You can begin in your very next meeting. Just try this. For every point you make, every time you advocate for your view, just ask one genuine question to understand how someone else sees it. For a few minutes, just try to suspend your own assumptions and listen, really listen. These tiny little shifts can make your conversations better almost instantly. So let's wrap this all up. What are the core lessons from this incredible story? This journey from absolute hate all the way to creative collaboration? It really just boils down to these three connected ideas. First, you have to build a vision that is genuinely shared, one that everyone helped create. Second, that vision only becomes real through the discipline of true dialogue, moving from trying to win arguments to creating shared meaning. And finally, that dialogue needs a safe place to happen, a cauldron that's strong enough to hold all that heat and transform it into the energy of trust. In the end, this all comes down to the conversations we decide to have. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. When you look at your own work, your own life, what is just one conversation, just one, that you can try to elevate this week, using some of the ideas we've talked about today?